Good evening and welcome back to the Jacked Up Fantasy Football League weekly show. It is time to recap all the games from week 4. Not joining me this evening once again is the Archon Tigers, who, held out the first week of the season, got a new contract, and once again he's crying about the whole thing, how he's the champion and he's not getting his respect. And I'm getting sick of it. I'm really getting sick of it. And the Archon Tigers, if you're watching this show, it's time to perform to your contract. You got your money, you got your contract. That's all I gotta say. So I'm gonna go solo for the second time in the last 5 weeks. A quick housekeeping note for you guys out there. The Vegas shows, the week 3 recap and the week 4 preview shows were all posted on the YouTube site, ValiD1. Unfortunately, there were some technical difficulties, so we were not able to get them posted until after week 4. So I did not see the need for them to be downloaded onto our site. So let's move on to week 4 and let's recap all the games from last week. Let's start off with the Playmakers. The Playmakers against the Serve Destroyers. My brother was talking a lot of trash here, but I kind of shut him up for at least 1 week. A week after scoring 181 points, the Serve Destroyers managed to score only about a third, 68 points. Easy victory for the Playmakers here. My notes, San Diego's defense obviously carried the Playmakers last week with 42 points. MJD finally scored his first 2 touchdowns of the year, and Donald Driver had his typical good game against the Lions. For Jake, when you pick up a guy, a backup running back like Kuhn from the Green Bay Packers, you can't really expect much production. And bad break with Deshaun Jackson losing Michael Vick in the first quarter. That messed up the chemistry there between those two guys. No points from Deshaun Jackson. But an easy victory for the Playmakers. We go 3-1. Jake the Snake goes to 2-2. So for all that trash talking, Jake, you got to put up or shut up. And last week you definitely did not put up. Moving on to the Cocoa Puffs and the Frosty Paws. The Cocoa Puffs, I first predicted them to win this game, and then I took the Frosty Paws. Went back and forth here. At the end, I should have stuck with the Cocoa Puffs. They win by 4. Antonio Gates is obviously the stud, the #1 tight end in our league this year. 32 points, another great game by Antonio Gates. Jim wins with 2 of his players scoring 0 points. 0 points, and he still gets the victory. For Andy, a very interesting move there, starting both of the Jets running backs with LT and with Sean Green. And they combined to score 41 points. So, it worked out for him. Obviously, you didn't win the game, Andy, but the combination of the 2 Jets running backs definitely produced for you last week. And that may be a good recipe for the weeks to come. Phillip Rivers scores 26. It's a pretty consistent week for Phillip Rivers. So, just a tough loss for the Frosty Paws there. I wouldn't be too excited if I were you, Jim. Again, without Gates, you would have lost, obviously. Lost pretty bad, so I still think you're one of the bottom tier teams in our league, and you're not going anywhere. Moving on to the Eliminators and the High Flyers. Last week in Vegas, both Zach, Tony, and myself, we all took the High Flyers. We thought the matchups favored the High Flyers. Randy was the only guy that took himself, and don't pat yourself on the back, Randy. You played against a team that scored a combined 56 points. Your defense gave you 33. A very ugly win. Very, very ugly win. And, for the High Flyers, not much to talk about really here. So we're going to move right on to the next game. Again, Randy is very, very lucky to be at 2-2. At 1-3. So, we move on to the TNT and T-Mac attack. TNT, this guy has been averaging 130 points a game. He is absolutely blowing up the scoreboard. Rodgers, once again, with 3 touchdowns, 31 points. Foster with 3 touchdowns. That's after being suspended and missing the first quarter of the game. For T-Mac attack, the whole Dolphins recipe there is not working anymore. The Dolphins defense hasn't done anything for him. The running backs didn't really have a great game on Monday night. His higher score is a tight end, Zach Miller. I like that pickup, T-Mac. I think it's time to drop Owen Daniels and stick with Zach Miller. He is obviously a top 5 tight end in the league, and he's been producing like one. Farmers Tan go 2-2 with a 4-point victory against the High Flyers, 101-97. In this game, my notes are the Giants defense went absolutely off for Bovon, 35 points. They had 9 sacks in the first half. That was the difference. Reggie Wayne with almost 200 yards receiving. Matt Schaub, a solid game. For Michael, you lose by 4 points. And, Henne has 3 interceptions on Monday night. You get -2 points for every interception. So, even if you only had 1 interception, the game would end up in a tie. You would have won the tiebreaker. So, a tough loss there for the High Flyers. And, controversial move here. This is the guy that's been playing the almost entire Cincinnati offense. And he decides to bench Palmer against the Browns, bench T.O. against the Browns, and all Palmer did is score him 26 points. All T.O. did for him is record 220 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns, and 34 points. So on the bench, he leaves 60 points. He loses by 4. Bad management there by Michael and the High Flyers, and that's the reason why he lost the game. Last but not least, the game of the week, the Archon Tigers knocked the Bulldogs off the reins of undefeated, 120-107 for Zach. I mean, the biggest difference here in the game was the Browns defense outscores the Colts defense 20-0. Who would have thought the Browns defense could actually come up with 20 fantasy points, but they do. Keller, once again, 2 touchdowns. He's becoming a top 5 tight end in fantasy football. He's becoming the primary target, it seems like, for Mark Sanchez and the Jets. LaShawn McCoy, once Vic got hurt in the first quarter, Kevin Kolb comes in, and LaShawn McCoy has 110 receiving yards, which is as expected because that is Kevin Kolb's game, is the short dink and dunk passes, and the beneficiary here was obviously LaShawn McCoy. A nice game from him. For the Bulldogs, his first loss of the season, he finally woke up and was talking trash after being missing for about a month of the season. There was a video on YouTube on Valley D1 where Zach was predicting his victory last week in that game, and he also said that if the Bulldogs do defeat the defending champions, they will go all the way and win the championship. I didn't buy into that. I wasn't high on the Bulldogs like many teams, and it's no surprise that once they step outside their own division, their very weak division, the Bulldogs are showing some vulnerability there. Hillis, great game for Peyton Hillis. Once again, 100 yards rushing. Mike Tolbert, 100 yards rushing. Who would have thought that these 2 guys, late season pickups by the Bulldogs, or early season pickups by the Bulldogs, late round picks, they would have over 100 yards rushing each. These are backup running backs that are starting to perform like starters. So good move there by the Bulldogs to start Peyton Hillis and Tolbert for the 2nd straight week. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough, and the Archon Tigers win and go to 3-1. The Bulldogs, again, that's their first loss of the season, and as most of us predicted, he's going to fall back down to earth. But Mark, it's good to see that you're still alive. I did notice you're trash talking on the message board. Keep it up, because we need guys like you to speak up when you're getting trashed for 3 straight weeks. Last week I went 3-3 in my picks for the season, 10-8. Who really cares about Zach's picks, because he's not here right now. If he was a man, he would show up and do the show here with me, but he's not. Let's look at the standings. The Playmakers, the mighty Playmakers, lead the toughest division in fantasy football at 3-1, right behind the Archon Tigers. The tiebreaker goes to me because of the head-to-head and because of the points scored. TNT, he is the best 2-2 team in the history of fantasy football, averaging 130 points a game. Just has had no luck, the toughest schedule. Farmers Tan, again, a nice come-from-behind victory to beat the High Flyers 2-2. So everyone in the East Division is at 500 or above. In the Central, the Serb Destroyers, I know this is the division where everyone's 500 or below. Serb Destroyers lead the division at 2-2. That's probably the last time the Serb Destroyers will be in first place. The Prime Timers at 2-2 as well. Frosty Paws and T-Mac at 1-3. Just a very bad division. In the West, the Bulldogs are 3-1 after getting their first loss of the season, losing to the back-to-back champion. The Cocoa Puffs 2-2. Eliminators, again, you know, TNT is the best 2-2 team in fantasy football. The Eliminators are the worst 2-2 team in fantasy football. I do play the Eliminators this week, and let's see if with a beat-up offense, a beat-up lineup, I can beat the Eliminators. I should be able to. The High Flyers, a disappointing team. I called this at the beginning of the season, 1-3. Just a weak division there. So that's all the time we have. We're going to move on to the Week 5 previews. Again, I'm going to fly solo because Zach was too big of a you-know-what. I can't say it because my mom is here visiting from West Palm, and I'm trying to keep this show rated PG. But Zach, if you were the man, you would be here right now and help me with this play-by-play. So
I am the champion. I don't know if you guys know that. So I think I deserve a little more respect.
Zach, you got the respect. You got your new contract. I don't know what else you want, man.
But I'm the champ. I want respect.
But that's all the time we have for the Week 4 recap show. Coming up next after this commercial break, brought to you by Geico and Heineken Light. We're going to be back to preview all games for Week 5, a very pivotal Week 5. That's all the time we have. Peace out, everyone.